Hello folks, welcome back to the fourth match of the Pokemon Players Cup VGC Regionals Qualifier. This is the week 1 stream that we're taking a look at. The fourth match, this is in the EU winners bracket, round 3 between Jamie, Boyt, and Marco Girorgi. I hope I'm saying that last name right. But so far, we've had some pretty interesting matches. We've seen 2 from the Oceania Regional Qualifiers, some pretty clean 2-0 sweeps with some interesting teams. We saw a very offensively focused Braviary in the last game. No Tailwind, it was all about dealing damage and focusing on that the Defiant ability next to Cinderace. Sometimes we see something like Bisharp or Melodic next to Cinderace, but in Graham's case, he decided to go with Braviary, which is an awesome choice. Today, we'll see what we have in this upcoming game from the EU, but let's go ahead and get right into it, huh? Oh, there we go. So, here we see, again, Jamie Boyt and Marco Girorgi, EU winners bracket, round 3. Marco leads with a Talonflame and Lapras, and Jamie leads with Volcarona and Porygon Z. Now, we saw Porygon Z in the previous match. It did plenty of damage, supported by a fake Tears Alolan Persian, but here we have Volcarona. And now Volcarona is a Pokemon that can have access to moves like Rage Powder, but it can also set up with Quiver Dance, and it be an offensive powerhouse of its own with moves like Bug Buzz, Heat Wave, all those types of things. Now, from Marco's side, Talonflame has the opportunity to go for a Gale Wings Tailwind here. Lapras would then outspeed pretty much everything Marco has going on, and Lapras's G-Max Resonance setting up screens, we saw that earlier in the tournament, can most definitely have a strong impact. Jamie switches out going into Rillaboom. Rillaboom definitely a threat to Lapras, but at the same time, it is vulnerable to that Ice-type G-Max Resonance. Grassy Terrain gets set up, will provide a little bit of recovery as well as a Grassy Glide boost for Rillaboom. Porygon Z here from Jamie is going to Dynamax. We saw that he clicked Max Strike. It's going to be doing a ton of damage, likely boosted by adaptability on this Porygon Z. Now, we'll see if it has Life Orb or Weakness Policy, what item it has, but traditionally, Life Orb Porygon Z is the way to go in the current meta. Marco, Dynamaxing what is probably Lapras. I imagine Talonflame is not going to be in a Dive Ball. So, as we said, plenty of things coming out here. Now, we do know that Talonflame isn't switching out. I think that makes it very likely that we see a Tailwind, although if Marco wanted to go with a Brave Bird into the, what's it called, Volcarona slot, Rillaboom would have gone down, but here we see the Tailwind's coming out. Now, Lapras is probably moving next. G-Max Resonance comes out. See who it's targeting. Targeting the Porygon Z, it's going to do a decent chunk of damage, but doesn't quite bring it down to halfway. Screens going up are going to help with the damage boost from adaptability from Porygon Z, and the Tailwind is actually going to offset this Max Strike speed drop. Now, Talonflame does... I can't tell if that's a Focus Sash or not. I don't think it is. Talonflame is like, oh no. I think Talonflame is either EV'd to survive it at 1 hit point somehow, or because we don't see a Focus Sash, that Talonflame has to be at exactly 1 hit point, and we saw no Focus Sash trigger. You almost have to wonder if Marco EV'd for that, or if that just happened to be, you know, happy coincidence that it survives. Rillaboom going for Protect here, actually, instead of a potential Fake Out on the Talonflame. And we see Max Strike coming out of Porygon Z again. Very likely that this Tailwind still makes Lapras and Talonflame faster than either of Jamie's Pokemon right now. I'm surprised that we didn't see either of the priority moves coming out of Jamie. Because this Talonflame now gets a chance to stick around. It is a relatively fast Pokemon, and with Tailwind set up, it's going to be outspeeding most of Jamie's team, although it does switch out here into Marowak. A Alolan Marowak we see. Definitely a strong Pokemon, especially against pretty much everything that Jamie's brought so far. And with the Tailwind boost, it does work pretty solidly. It still may not be faster than some of the faster Pokemon that Jamie has, as Alolan Marowak tends to be more of a Trick Room Pokemon due to its low base 30-ish speed. Max Strike coming out again. Lapras taking a good chunk of damage yet again, but nothing too scary. Those screens doing a lot of work. The Protect from Rillaboom didn't really do too much here. It kind of let Lapras just get away with what it wanted to. And now both Dynamaxes are going to be coming to an end on this turn. There's no fake out pressure from Jamie. So we see here he's considering switching out into the Volcarona. Max Darkness this time coming out of Porygon Z will do considerable damage, and we see it's targeting the Marowak for super effective. It is likely a Shadow Ball base, which is definitely something interesting. I do know that a lot of times Porygon Z's or any of the Porygon line will have something like Thunderbolt or Ice Beam to deal with other dangerous Pokemon, but Shadow Ball has risen in popularity mostly due to Side Spam. We see there that the speed drops from Max Strike let Porygon Z outspeed both of Marco's Pokemon even when they have Tailwind. Special defense falls. We saw that the Grassy Seed boosted Volcarona's defense, but this G-Max Resonance comes down. It is not super effective, but it does have a critical hit. Or I'm sorry, it's not effective at all. And Lapras is a Life Orb. Flare Blitz comes out of the Alolan Marowak, taking down the Porygon Z, but this Alolan Marowak is going to be taking a lot of recoil damage. I don't know if it will survive at the end of this turn. Oh, so here we see Alolan Marowak doesn't have Lightning Rod. It appears that it has the Rock Head ability so that it doesn't take any recoil damage from moves like Flare Blitz. Interesting choice from Marco here, especially paired next to Lapras. Usually you might see Alolan Marowak with Lightning Rod just to make sure Lapras doesn't take any damage from super effective lightning type attacks. Of course, and Marowak, of course, threatens grass types. So the move to go for Rock Head over Lightning Rod is definitely something interesting here. Perhaps keeping opponents on their toes, although everybody does know movesets, items, and Pokemon that everybody else is bringing. So here we see, as we said before, Jamie has Volcarona, it has Heat Wave, and it actually has Giga Drain. There is no Bug Buzz on this Volcarona, and we see Single Strike Urshifu coming out. Now, Single Strike Urshifu tends to have something like an Assault Vest, but it could also have a Choice Item, Choice Band, or Choice Scarf, or even a Focus Sash. Plenty of things here. Close Combat comes out, takes out the Lapras. Urshifu's defense will be dropping. Definitely puts it in a little bit of a vulnerable position. We'll see if this Marowak can survive whatever Volcarona is about to send out. Heat Wave comes through. Marowak is going to resist it, but we see just how strong Volcarona can. And the crit there, though, might have actually mattered. Alolan Marowak isn't necessarily the bulkiest Pokemon, but it's not anything to scoff at. And while Volcarona is fairly strong, I am surprised that killed, and that crit most definitely had something to do with it. So here we see Marco. We know that Talonflame is in the back with maybe one hit point, and we see Marco has an Urshifu of their own, also a Single Strike Urshifu. So we'll see what happens here. There is no bug move out of Volcarona to be super effective on Marco's Urshifu. We see it is going to try to make sure that Urshifu, it is going to use that Rage Powder move, I believe, and a potential Wicked Blow here coming out. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Sucker Punch, as Talonflame getting even a single attack off could be dangerous, and we know that Urshifu is not Choice Scarfed. Volcarona uses Rage Powder, as we said. Talonflame Dual Wing Beat coming out. It is not going to do quite enough to take out this Volcarona. Urshifu from Jamie's side going first. Wicked Blow coming out into the Talonflame, taking it down. The critical hit, this time not so much a surprise. It happens every time with Urshifu's signature moves, in this case Wicked Blow. Now Marco's Urshifu going for a close combat. Volcarona goes down. Now we're kind of in something of a standoff. Both Marco and Jamie with full hit point Urshifus. Equal defense and attack drops, or I'm sorry, Jamie's Urshifu actually is a little bit weak, and now Marco's Aurora Veil has worn off. The grassy terrain is out of here, but Jamie still has that Rillaboom. Rillaboom with Fake Out, Knockoff, Grassy Glide, Grassy Surge, resetting that terrain. Jamie, good job being patient and waiting for the terrain to go out for it to reset there. The Fake Out here, going into Urshifu, Wicked Blow or Close Combat here. Good moves. Close Combat is neutral effective. Battle is canceled. And Marco going down in that first game. Definitely an interesting setup that we saw. That Alone Marowak with Rockhead is definitely something to keep in mind. But because now if Jamie potentially has something with a Thunderbolt in the back for that Lapras, Marowak is absolutely not a problem anymore. Now again, and Lapras setting up those screens definitely did put a little bit of a hitch in Jamie's step, but not too much. That Urshifu and Rillaboom in the back combo definitely put pressure on the rest of Marco's team. That's definitely something to keep in mind moving forward, and Rillaboom is definitely a threat to the Lapras. Marowak can do plenty of stuff. It doesn't exactly have too difficult of a time against Rillaboom or even Porygon Z, but something like Urshifu, and as we saw, even Volcarona can give it a little bit of trouble, especially if Volcarona can get a chance to set up with something like Quiver Dance. So as we go into Game 2, we'll see what adjustments players make. We do know that Jamie has a Porygon 2 in the back, I believe. Well, potentially not. It might have just been Porygon Z on the screen before. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the second game. Alright, so Marco going with the same lead, Talonflame and Lapras. We did see that Talonflame survive on 1 hit point before. Jamie going with the same lead again. We're seeing a lot of this where both players kind of just go with the same leads. People are either considering, well, maybe from the winner's side, it's kind of understandable. What I did last time worked. I ended up winning. You know, let's go for the same thing, see what happens. For the people that lost, it is kind of interesting to see that they go with the same game plan. Maybe they're thinking, okay, well, if I make this one move right, then it'll work out better. Or if I make this one switch, it'll be better if our opponent doesn't get a crit. And that's one thing where if Jamie hadn't gotten a crit on that Heat Wave on Alolan Marowak, that might have been big. Alolan Marowak might have survived to cause all sorts of havoc with that Flare Blitz. And so now we actually see a Max Darkness right off the bat out of Jamie. We'll see what happens with Marco. Jamie Dynamaxing right away. Marco, again, Talonflame has the option. Go ahead, go for a Tailwind. We'll see what Lapras does here. But Porygon Z using this Max Darkness is going to be pretty key in making sure damage gets through that Aurora Veil a little bit faster and a little bit easier. Here we see Marco once again Dynamaxing the Lapras. A repeat of last game. We'll see how the rest of the turn plays out. Lapras comes up, getting ready for that G-Max Resonance. Now, if Marco brought something other than the Alolan Marowak and the Single Strike Urshifu, that could potentially pose a little bit more of a threat to Volcarona consistently. That could be something that Marco has to watch out for. Now, if Talonflame can stick around, it will be a massive threat to both Urshifu and to Rillaboom, but Talonflame has to stick around, and it has to be at relatively high HP. There we see the Aurora Veil gets set up, but Volcarona now is setting up in the face of a Lapras and a Talonflame, both Pokemon that can cause some issues for Volcarona in the form of super effective attacks. Max Darkness coming out of Porygon Z into Talonflame, doing about 40% damage. Breaking that Gale Wings priority trigger. Special defense falls, but no speed drop this time. If Porygon Z can go down, then that's going to be huge. But the special defense drop on both of these Pokemon is going to let both Volcarona and Porygon Z do so much more damage through these screens. Here we see Volcarona has set up. We saw that Giga Drain, and it's going into Lapras. That's going to be doing a ton of damage unless Volcarona goes down to Talonflame. But after a Quiver Dance, even with a Tailwind, that's going to be hard to see. We'll see what Marco does. Lapras is likely staying in, wasting that. Switching out of the Gigantamax is going to be rough, and Marco does know that Jamie's Volcarona has Giga Drain. Players know team sheets, and that's going to be important. Dual Wing Beat comes out, and Volcarona avoids the attack. One of the pitfalls of that move. Here we see Max Geyser coming out. It does a little more than 40% to this Porygon Z, but not enough to KO. Rain does come out. That is going to boost Lapras' damage output some, but Volcarona uses Giga Drain. It does a good chunk to this Gigantamax Lapras. And Volcarona is now restored to full HP. Max Strike coming out into the Lapras, just about taking it down. Speed Drop comes out. Jamie now chipping away at that Tailwind. First kind of looking to counter a little bit those screens, and now the Tailwind. Lapras might even go down to its own Life Orb here. Giga Drain out of Volcarona. Any damage coming out now from either of Marco's Pokemon is very likely just going to be completely healed off with the Giga Drain. Max Strike coming out potentially from Porygon Z. Volcarona reconsidering. So what we might see here, Talonflame might go ahead and switch out now, preserve a little bit more health. Lapras uses Max Guard. We see no switch. Marco being very cavalier about this Talonflame. We know it can't kill Volcarona. It does a good chunk of damage. The Giga Drain isn't going to get the chance to restore it, thanks to the Max Guard on the Lapras. Max Darkness from Porygon Z going to be doing a ton of damage to this Talonflame again. Talonflame goes down. Marco is going to have another answer if Jamie brought Rillaboom and Single Strike Urshifu in the back. Potentially Alolan Marowak could handle it. We do know Porygon Z is no longer going to be Dynamax now, but it does have either Shadow Ball or, I'm sorry, it is a Dark type move, so Dark Pulse, my apologies. It is Max Dark, not Max Ghost, so, but it likely has something like Dark Pulse to basically deal with the Alolan Marowak. Lapras still alive. Life Orb, no Life Orb recoil on Max Guard. Giga Drain potentially coming out of Volcarona. We have one more turn of Tailwind, and we didn't get another Speed Drop. Porygon Z wanting to stay alive, using a Protect of its own. Alolan Marowak is here, but that Flare Blitz now is weakened by the rain set up by Lapras. While Alolan Marowak doesn't have any of the stat drops, Porygon Z can likely still do plenty of damage to it, and as we know, Volcarona is boosted by Quiver Dance. Volcarona using Giga Drain, it is faster than these Pokemon now. Luckily, or well, this is debatable on the luck side, but Lapras is at very low health. Volcarona only gets 6 hit points back, potentially in range. Here we see Volcarona is getting attacked by its Grassy Seed thanks to this Poltergeist, and it does go down. So Volcarona finally going down. Marco lost a Talonflame and a Lapras to get a chunk of damage on Porygon Z and take out a Volcarona. But here we see Rillaboom and Urshifu in the back. Interesting item on the Rillaboom there. It looks like one of the training bands. Interesting. I'm not entirely sure what that is. Here we see Urshifu comes out. Single Strike Urshifu, certainly a threat to Alolan Marowak, and we see both players brought the exact same 4. We'll see if it can play out any differently for Marco, but a single Wicked Blow from Jamie's Urshifu could pretty handily deal with this Alolan Marowak, as well as a Dark Pulse. Tri-Attack coming out of Jamie's Porygon Z. Marco's Urshifu, potentially something like a Sucker Punch. We do know it has close combat. Potentially Detect, Iron Head, things like that. Occasionally, Urshifu can get moves like Aerial Ace, which could, if Marco has it, that could deal with Rillaboom. But right now, in the rain, Alolan Marowak is going to struggle to deal with Rillaboom. Rillaboom. Grassy Surge gets set up. That's going to be restoring any chip damage that comes out. Marowak uses Protect. That's not really going to do too much with Porygon Z going into the Dark-type Urshifu. Close Combat comes out into the Rillaboom. Urshifu's defense and special defense fall. Porygon Z's Tri-Attack is going to do a chunk of damage here. Urshifu goes to 1, it looks like. Just barely surviving. Marco's Pokemon have been hanging on by a thread in this match. We'll see if this Urshifu can bring it back here, but this Aurora Veil has now faded. It's been so helpful, but this Grassy Glide is coming out into Urshifu. Unless we see something like a Sucker Punch, it really isn't going to matter too much what happens here. This Dark Pulse is also going to be doing a ton of damage to Marowak. Perhaps a double Protect here from Marco could be a little bit helpful, get a little more health on Single Strike Urshifu, but a Grassy Glide is such a powerful move, especially boosted by Grassy Terrain, not only with it giving it priority, but also a 1.3 times damage boost. We'll have to see here. We can pretty solidly say that a Alolan Marowak is not going to be outspeeding anything here. Grassy Glide going into Urshifu, no damage thanks to the Protect. Dark Pulse coming out. We'll see if Marowak can survive, and it does with a good chunk of health left. Poltergeist coming out again. Rillaboom attacked by its Power Band, most likely going down, and it is down. So there's a chance here. Marco still has a chance. Urshifu getting a little bit more health back. Jamie can only target Alolan Marowak really with the Porygon Z if he doesn't want this Urshifu to be able to have even a chance to take out Jamie's Porygon Z. Now, the thing here, Jamie's Urshifu could use a Sucker Punch onto Marco's, which I have a feeling could take it out pretty decisively. A Sucker Punch on Marco's Marowak could also do plenty of work here. Both of Marco's Pokemon are in extremely precarious positions. While Marco could certainly take out Porygon Z with a close combat, Marco's Urshifu has to survive. And Marowak right now is kind of a sitting duck against two Pokemon with Dark-type moves. Here we see Jamie really considering this Sucker Punch here. Like, the damage is going to be close. It could certainly take out Marowak, and I think this Dark Pulse will absolutely take out Urshifu. Protect comes out of Marowak here, get a little bit of health back. It might not matter too much. Sucker Punch from Jamie's Urshifu will fail. Marco's Urshifu does move next, takes out Jamie's. It's now a Porygon Z versus an Urshifu and a Marowak. We'll see if Marco can pull this out. Urshifu is going to be hit by this Tri-Attack. It's going to take it out, most certainly. Now it's an Alolan Marowak versus a Porygon Z with Dark Pulse. It's going to be... The rain is gone. Marowak using a Flare Blitz could just do it. But a Dark Pulse last time into the Marowak took it down to about a third of its health. Marowak doesn't even have nearly as... barely has any more than that. Most certainly not 2/3. Porygon Z Dark Pulse comes out here. Marowak goes down. So that was certainly an exciting game 2. We saw Marco kind of clawing their way back into it, using some going pretty hard with their own Urshifu. Close combats, kind of flying left and right. I mean, that's kind of what you have to do. You have to look at, well, how do I win? I win by taking out their Pokemon, not by playing defensively. And he almost got there. But with Jamie, we saw the power of Porygon Z. And this is now, I believe, 2 matchups of Porygon Z versus Lapras. And Porygon Z comes out on top this time. We also saw Volcarona do a good chunk of damage. That Quiver Dance setup, very powerful. Rage Powder as a form of redirection in place of something like Togekiss or Amoonguss. And it certainly paid off. Those Giga Drains into Lapras did so much damage and really helped Volcarona's longevity. We also kind of saw how, even if it wasn't present the whole time, just kind of how threatening and powerful Rillaboom is and kind of why it's so popular in the current meta. Grassy Glide is a threatening move with that +1 priority in grassy terrain. and fake and stuff like fake out and knockoff, obviously strong moves. And the power, like I said, power band on Rillaboom, certainly an interesting item. Normally you see something like choice band, maybe even muscle band, but power band, one of those EV training items. Definitely interesting to see out of Jamie's team. On Marco's side, we did see that Alola Marowak paired with Talonflame. Kind of, Alola Marowak, we normally see that with Trick Room, but Talonflame's Tailwind gives it a little bit of a speed boost, but really more often than not, that only makes it on par with everything else. It wasn't really outspeeding anything. Talonflame really just seemed to be there to try to get Lapras up and going ahead of time. That Aurora Veil from on Marco's side did help a little bit, but Porygon Z and a Quiver Danced Volcarona just do so much damage. Thank you so much for watching. Tomorrow we'll be continuing with our analysis of the Players' Cup VGC Regional Championship. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Be safe, be smart, and make wise decisions.